Today's conversation about goals is going to be quite a bit different. Indeed, we are going to talk about setting goals. We are also going to talk about how to assess progress towards goals, and we are going to talk about goal execution. However, we're going to do all of this in the context of neuroscience. So humans are among the other animals, or we could say the animals are among us, in the need to set goals and to make efforts to achieve those goals. Another thing that's really unique about the human brain is that we are able to have multiple goals interacting at once. So for instance, we probably all have fitness goals, goals in relationships of different kinds, friendships and romantic partnerships, as well as maybe scholastic goals. Maybe you're in school, you're pursuing some kind of learning outside of the school environment, and or you have business goals or financial goals. And actually one of the major challenges in pursuing goals is that goal pursuit often interacts, meaning if you can spend 100% of your time chasing one particular goal, that might be very effective for that goal, but then we tend to fall back on some of our other goals. You can imagine how this plays out. If you're working very, very hard, you're solely focused on business, often your health will suffer. If you're solely focused on your health, often other things will suffer. And so we have to juggle both our goal setting and our goal pursuits. And today we're going to talk about a number of different ways to work with what could very well be called these interleaving goals by focusing on a common practice or common set of mechanisms that are present in all aspects of goal seeking. So when we think about goal seeking and the pursuit of goals of any kind in the brain, it doesn't matter what the goal is. It involves a common set of neural circuits. What's going on in these circuits can basically be boiled down to two particular things. The first is value information, trying to understand whether or not something is really worth pursuing or not. There are basically only 3 or 4 elements to goal setting and goal pursuit. Basically, an individual or set of individuals has to identify a specific thing that they're going to attain. In some communities, they talk about knowing what right looks like, meaning being able to define a very specific goal. You can't just say, I want to be a champion athlete. You have to say what sport, and you have to understand what the path to that is. So any big goal, of course, is broken up into a series of smaller goals, but the whole thing starts with thinking about the end in mind. What are some things that you've either accomplished or that you'd like to accomplish going forward? Because as we do this, we can build toward a set of protocols that at the end, you'll be able to very quickly plug in your particular goals and a route to those particular goals that's grounded in the science that I think are going to be very effective in allowing you to reach those goals more quickly and with indeed less effort. So we've all been told that multitasking is terrible, but if you, for instance, find yourself cleaning up your house and also checking your phone and doing a number of things right at the point where you should be sitting down to write or do some focused work, it probably reflects some adaptive mechanism where you use action and somewhat varied multitasking action in order to generate adrenaline in your system, because adrenaline just gets you into action. Now, that's great, but you don't want to multitask throughout any kind of goal seeking or goal pursuit behavior, because what's also very clear is that visual focus, and in particular, contracting your visual window, bringing the aperture of what you see to a very fine point, can absolutely increase your clarity of goal seeking and the likelihood that you will pursue your goals. I've talked about this a little bit before on the podcast as a way of increasing focus for any kind of pursuit. I've talked about a practice whereby you can literally look at a dot or a line placed on a wall or on your computer in front of you for 30 to 60 seconds, and then moving into some dedicated work where you need to focus. And indeed, just looking at a narrow piece of the visual world, a small piece of the visual world for some period of time and forcing yourself to hold that gaze on that location as best you can increase your level of cognitive attention and your ability to focus and stay focused. So for people who have ADHD and focus issues and attentional issues, this can be effective. For people who don't, this can also be effective. Again, it places your brain and body into a state of readiness. And then the idea is to move into the particular actions that bring you closer to your goal, right? I mentioned that multitasking can be effective in getting your system into somewhat of an increased level of activation so that you can pursue a more focused goal. But the visual attention to a particular point is going to be the most effective way to bring your system into a state of readiness and action for goal pursuit. So does visualization work? Well, turns out that visualization of the big win, the end goal, so the Super Bowl win, or 8 gold medals in the Olympics, or graduation from the university of your choice, or making a certain amount of money, or finding the partner of your choice, etc. That visualization is effective in getting the goal pursuit process started, but it actually is a pretty lousy and maybe even counterproductive way of maintaining pursuit of that goal. Typically, we are told, don't imagine failure, push failure out of your mind, only focus on success, fake it till you make it, or is a phrase that I absolutely hate, frankly, because it's not even clear what that means, and it's not even clear what the ethical form of that is. I think it means continue despite any anxiety or fear that things won't work out. But if you look at the literature, the scientific literature, what the Balcetis lab and other labs have shown is that there's a near doubling in the probability of reaching one's goal if you focus routinely on foreshadowing failure. You're supposed to think about how things could fail if you don't get up and run each morning if your goal is, say, a fitness goal. So while I'd love to be able to tell you that all you should think about is rainbows and puppies and all the wonderful, rewarding things that are going to happen when you achieve your goals, the truth is you should be thinking mainly about how bad it's really going to get if you don't do it, how disappointed in yourself you're going to feel, how it will negatively impact you, if not in the immediate term, in the long term, if indeed your goal is to reach your goal. So I want to emphasize that I'm not interested in encouraging people to flagellate themselves. I'm encouraging people to achieve their goals. And it turns out the best way to do that is by foreshadowing failure. And the more specific you can get by writing down or thinking about or talking about how bad it will be if you don't achieve your goals, the more likely you are to achieve those goals. When we hear that something's too easy to recruit our action, what do we mean? Well, Balcetis lab measured systolic blood pressure and found that when goals were too easy for people to attain, they didn't get that increase in systolic blood pressure and recruitment of the other neural and vascular systems, meaning the blood systems and the nervous system, that would place them into ongoing effort. And so they quickly gave up. Also, if a goal was too lofty, if it was too far from their current abilities, it didn't recruit enough systolic blood pressure. Even if people could get very excited about something mentally, it simply didn't place their body into a state of readiness because it wasn't tangible that they could actually perhaps really achieve it. So it turns out that when goals were moderate, when they were just outside of one's immediate abilities, or that one felt that, that would take a lot of effort, but it's within range or maybe in range, then there was a near doubling of the systolic blood pressure in the good sense, and a doubling or more of the likelihood that they would engage in the ongoing pursuit of that particular goal. So here we're talking about goal setting. What we're saying is set goals that are realistic, but that aren't so realistic that they're easy. The goals need to be realistic and truly challenging. Again, set goals that are difficult to achieve, but that are not so lofty that they collapse your system and that you feel overwhelmed. Or maybe 3 major goals for a given year is going to be more than enough for most people and is actually going to be challenging for most people. Focus on particular visual points as a way to harness your attention and to remove distractors, and getting your body and brain into a mode of activation, getting that healthy increase in systolic blood pressure that puts you into forward motion towards your goals is absolutely key.